Okay, this is our puzzle called What Do You Call a Nosy Pepper? And we're supposed to graph each equation, so there's the equations, to cross out a two-letter combo to use at the bottom. Okay, the two-letter combos they're talking about are right here. So once we graph this line, it's going to cross out one of those two-letter combos, and then whichever one is crossed out will be the one that we put at the bottom. So for problem number 1, we would put it down here, the two-letter combo. All right, so let's go ahead and start solving some of these and graphing them. I'm not going to do all of them because that wouldn't be any fun. So I'm just going to do 2, 4, 6, and 8 and show you how it's done. So there are two ways that you could do this, but the first thing you're going to want to do in any case is find out what figure 0 is, or figure 0 is also known as the y-intercept. So we'll figure out where on this line the first point should go. So if we write out our slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, we know that b is our y-intercept, or we know that it is also figure 0, or where x is 0. So if we look at this one, we know that 3 is b, so 3 is our figure 0, and it's also our y-intercept. So the line is going to intersect the y-axis right there at that point. So if we know that that point is on this line, we can now figure out where the rest of the line is. So there's kind of two ways of doing that. One is by looking at the slope, and then if we go over 1 and up 2, so in this case, we're kind of going off the graph, so that's not going to help us too much. But the other way is we can figure out the rest of the table and just graph those lines. So we're going to do that in this case. So let's see, if we put a -1 in for x, that will make this whole thing, -1 times 2 is -2, plus 3, that's going to be a +1. And then -2 times +2 will be -4, plus 3, that will turn out to be a -1. So let's go ahead and graph these other 2 points that we have. So we start out with x is -1, y is +1. X is -2, y is -1. Okay, so we've got 3 points there. And we can draw our line now, and we'll see which of these letters gets crossed out. And it looks like it's these two, LA. So we're going to go down here to where the 2 is and put in those letters, LA. All right, so now let's do 4. All right, so the first thing right away is we know what the y-intercept, or figure 0, is. That's -3, so I'll fill in my figure 0, and I will also graph my y-intercept. So 1, 2, 3, -3 goes right here. Okay, so if we look at the slope for this, we know that the m is going to be a -1. And so if we go over 1, we'll go down 1. Okay, well that tells us that this is going to have a negative slope. And we've got these 2 lines, but they're so close together, I think I'm going to go ahead and fill in the table again also and plot these 2 lines. So if I put a 1 in for x, then I get a -1 minus 3, so that's -4. And then if I put a -3 in for x, then this sign is going to flip that -3 to a +3, -3, and that leaves me with 0. So let's graph those 2 lines. So if I have +1, or positive 1x, then I've got negative 4. Oh, it's that same point that I graphed before. And then negative 3, so x is negative 3, and then this is 0, y is 0. Okay, so let's graph this line. Okay, and we see that the two letters we cross out are BU. So 4 BU. Okay, so now let's go to 6 and look at this one. So we know our y-intercept is 3. We also know that figure 0 here is also 3. So I'm going to graph the y-intercept right here. We filled in figure 3. So now this is interesting because our slope is a negative 1/3. So that means that for every change, this is a little different. We're used to having a slope that's just a single digit like that. But this one is a fraction, and so the y is on top and the x is on the bottom. This is something we haven't actually learned yet, so I'm just going to go ahead and fill in the table, and we'll plot the points that way. So 3 times negative 1/3, so that would look like this. Negative 1/3 times 3 plus 3. So this is really 3 over 1. So we can cancel these 3's, and what we have left is a negative 1. Negative 1 over 1, which is negative 1. Negative 1 plus 3 is a positive 2. All right, and then if we put negative 3 in here, we can do the canceling again, but this time a negative times a negative is a positive. So this time we get a positive 1, we add it to the 3, and we get 4. Okay, so 0 and negative and positive 3 we've got, and then we've got to go x is 3 and y is 2. And then we've got a negative 3 and a positive 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and graph this. And it looks like we're crossing out the letters SI right here. So that goes into 6, SI. And our last one is 8. So we know that this is our y-intercept or our figure 0. So I'm going to put that in for figure 0, and also I'm going to graph it on the y-axis. And then we're just going to put 4 in for x, and the 4 will cancel with this 4, and so we'll have 3 left. 3 minus 1 is 2. And then a negative 4 put in here would mean the result of this is a negative 3. Negative 3 plus negative 1 is negative 4. Okay, so let's do these points. We've already got this one. And now we need to go 4 and positive 2. And then we need to go 4 this way, for negative 4 and negative 4. So there's our final line, and it looks like it is going through JA. And so 8, which is way back here, is going to be JA. So now you can do the rest of these and figure out what the answer to the riddle is.